If this topic has been on your mind lately, you're exactly where you need to be. Florence Scovel Shinn is about to share something powerful. Before we begin, I left a free 30 spoken declarations for wealth, health, miracles inside this free guide. You'll receive white heavy checkmark 30 sacred, one sentence declarations that activate spiritual law. White heavy checkmark split into 3 divine categories: wealth, health, and divine timing. White heavy checkmark a ritual format you can speak daily, morning, noon, and night in the description. Now, let's listen.
Most people pray for money like they're apologizing for breathing. They whisper their desires into the darkness, hoping God won't notice their greed. But here's what will shock you. The universe isn't withholding your $1 million because you're unworthy. It's withholding it because you're asking like a beggar instead of claiming like royalty. There are 7 specific words that flip this entire dynamic on its head, and when you speak them correctly, you're not pleading with the universe, you're commanding it. But here's the catch that nobody tells you. The reason these words work isn't because they're magic. They work because they wake up something in you that's been sleeping your whole life. I'm about to share something that will completely shatter the biggest lie you've been told about money and spirituality. For too long, you've been caught in this exhausting war between wanting abundance and feeling guilty about it. You've been taught that spiritual people should be humble about money, that wanting wealth somehow makes you less holy, less pure, less deserving of God's love. And this lie has kept you trapped in cycles of almost having enough, of watching opportunities slip through your fingers, of feeling like you're doing everything right but still struggling to pay your bills. Here's what I need you to understand right now. Money isn't separate from spirit. Money is spirit in physical form. Every dollar that flows through your hands is divine energy made manifest. And your reluctance to claim abundance isn't humility, it's spiritual arrogance disguised as piety. You've been trained to want money like a criminal instead of expecting it like a child of the divine. But today, that changes everything. Let me tell you a story that will help you see this clearly. There once was a woman who spent her entire adult life cleaning houses and barely scraping by. She lived in a tiny apartment, wore the same 3 dresses, and counted every penny twice. She was proud of her simple life, often telling herself that wanting more would be greedy, that God loved her poverty because it kept her humble. One day, while cleaning out her grandmother's attic after the funeral, she discovered an ornate wooden box hidden behind old quilts. Inside was an ancient crown, tarnished but unmistakably real, along with documents written in faded ink. As she read, her hands began to shake. The papers proved she was the rightful heir to a vast estate that had been searching for her family for generations. There were bank accounts, properties, investments, millions of dollars that had been sitting there waiting for someone to claim them. All those years of poverty, all that struggle and sacrifice had been completely unnecessary. She had been living as a beggar while being the rightful queen of her own kingdom. This is exactly what's happening to you right now. You are spiritual royalty walking around with a beggar's mindset. You are the heir to infinite abundance, but you've been taught to knock timidly on the door of your own palace and ask if maybe, possibly, if it's not too much trouble, you could have just enough to get by. The universe has been holding your inheritance in trust, waiting for you to stop apologizing for your birthright and start claiming it. Here's another way to see this. Watch a 2-year-old when they want water. They don't approach their parent with shame in their eyes, apologizing for being thirsty. They don't whisper, "I'm sorry to bother you, but if it's okay, and if we have enough water, and if I've been good enough to deserve it, could I maybe have a sip?" That's ridiculous, right? They march up with complete confidence and announce, "I want water." They know, without question, that they have the right to receive what they need. They expect to be cared for because they understand their position in the family. This is the natural state of divine expectation we had before the world taught us to shrink our desires and apologize for our needs. When did you first learn that wanting was wrong? Can you remember the moment someone made you feel guilty for desiring more, for dreaming bigger, for believing you deserved abundance. What if I told you that your desires aren't tests of your character, but GPS coordinates from your soul, directing you toward the life you're meant to live? The truth is, money is just divine love made visible. Every time you receive money, whether it's a paycheck, a gift, or finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk, the universe is saying, "I love you," in a language you can deposit in the bank. But somewhere along the way, you learned to be suspicious of this love, to question whether you deserved it, to feel guilty about receiving it. This is like a child refusing their parents' hug because they think they haven't earned affection. Here's what changes everything. There's a difference between the energy of asking and the energy of claiming. When you ask for money, you're operating from the assumption that it belongs to someone else, and you have to convince them to share it with you. When you claim money, you're operating from the knowing that it already belongs to you, and you're simply calling it home. The entire universe responds differently to these two energies. This brings me to the 7 sacred words that will force the universe to give you your $1,000,000. But before I share them, you need to understand why they work. These words aren't an incantation or a spell. They're a declaration of truth that rewrites your relationship with receiving. They shift you from the energy of a beggar to the energy of an heir. Are you ready? The 7 sacred words are, "I claim my divine inheritance now, please." Let me break this down for you word by word, because each one carries specific energetic significance. This establishes you as the speaker, the one with authority to make this declaration. Not maybe I could, or I hope I might, but I, with certainty and power. Claim. This is not asking, begging, or requesting. Claiming means taking rightful possession of something that already belongs to you. When you claim your luggage at the airport, you don't beg the baggage handler to please give you your suitcase if you've been good enough. You claim what's yours. This establishes ownership. Not a inheritance or some inheritance, but my inheritance, the specific abundance that belongs to you and you alone. Divine, this acknowledges the source of your abundance. This isn't money you're trying to manipulate or force from other people. This is abundance flowing directly from the infinite supply of the divine. Inheritance. This word changes everything. An inheritance isn't something you earn through good behavior or hard work. An inheritance is yours by birthright. You don't have to prove you deserve what your loving parent has left for you. Now, this collapses time and brings your abundance into the present moment, not someday when I'm ready or eventually when I've suffered enough, but now, because divine timing is always now. Please, this isn't begging. This is the same please you'd use when asking your beloved to pass the salt. It's an acknowledgement of relationship, a recognition of love, a word that honors the connection between you and your divine source. When you put these 7 words together with the right energy, you're not forcing the universe to do anything against its will. You're forcing the universe to recognize what it's been trying to give you all along. You're commanding your own awakening to the truth of who you are and what belongs to you. But here's the paradox that confuses so many people. How can commanding the universe create more flow instead of resistance? It seems backwards, doesn't it? We've been taught that we should be gentle and humble in our asking, that demanding anything from God is disrespectful. But think about this. When you were a child and you commanded your parents' attention because you were hurt or scared, were you being disrespectful? Or were you exercising your natural right to receive care from someone who loved you?
Take a moment to let that sink in. If you're feeling called to go deeper with Florence Scovel Shinn's methods, I left a free 30 spoken declarations for wealth, health, miracles inside this free guide. You'll receive white heavy checkmark 30 sacred, 1-sentence declarations that activate spiritual law. White heavy checkmark split into 3 divine categories: wealth, health, and divine timing. White heavy checkmark a ritual format you can speak daily, morning, noon, and night in the description. Now, let's continue.
The difference between forcing outcomes and forcing recognition of truth is everything. When you try to force specific outcomes, like making a particular person give you money or manipulating circumstances to go your way, You create resistance because you're trying to control what isn't yours to control. But when you force recognition of the truth that you are a beloved child of the divine with the right to abundance, you create flow because you're aligning with what's already true. Here's what I want you to understand about your relationship with money. Right now, you're probably operating from what I call beggar consciousness. Beggar consciousness believes that abundance is scarce, that you have to compete for it, that receiving it means someone else has to do without. Beggar consciousness approaches money with guilt, shame, and apology. It whispers, "I probably don't deserve this, but could I please have just a little bit?" But you weren't born into beggar consciousness. You were born into royal consciousness. Royal consciousness knows that abundance is infinite, that your receiving increases the flow for everyone, that money is just love made visible. Royal consciousness approaches money with confidence, expectation, and gratitude. It declares, "This is mine by divine right, and I claim it now with joy." The shift from beggar to royal consciousness isn't about changing who you are. It's about remembering who you've always been. You are not separate from the divine. You are not outside the circle of infinite love and provision. You are not the exception to universal abundance. You are the beloved child for whom all of this exists. So what would happen if you really knew this? What would you do differently if you woke up tomorrow remembering that you have $1 million trust fund waiting for you in the spiritual realm? How would you walk, talk, and move through the world if you truly understood that poverty was never meant for you? This is where we move from understanding to practice, because knowing the truth isn't enough. You have to live it. The first thing I want you to do is create a daily inheritance ritual. Every morning, before you check your phone or start your day, I want you to sit quietly and speak these 7 words. I claim my divine inheritance now, please. Say them like you mean them. Say them like you're calling your own money home. As you speak, imagine yourself walking into a cosmic bank and checking the balance on your divine trust fund. See those numbers. Feel the security of knowing your abundance is already there, already yours, already flowing toward you. The second practice is what I call the worthiness audit. I want you to pay attention to all the ways you shrink your desires throughout the day. Notice when you tell yourself you can't afford something you want. Notice when you feel guilty for wanting more. Notice when you apologize for your dreams. Each time you catch yourself doing this, I want you to reframe that want as a divine assignment. Instead of, "I can't afford that," say, "The universe is showing me what belongs to me." Instead of, "I shouldn't want so much," say, "My desires are sacred instructions from my soul." The third practice is about embodiment, what I call the millionaire's posture. Your body holds energy, and right now, your body is probably holding the energy of struggle, of not enough, of having to work hard for every dollar. I want you to practice moving through the world as someone who already has their inheritance. Walk with your shoulders back, speak with confidence, make decisions from abundance instead of scarcity. When you're grocery shopping, don't agonize over every price. When someone asks you to dinner, don't immediately calculate whether you can afford it. Move through your days as someone whose money worries are behind them. Here's what's going to surprise you. The moment you start practicing royal consciousness, opportunities will begin appearing everywhere. The universe has been trying to give you your $1 million, but it couldn't get through your beggar consciousness. It's like trying to deliver a package to someone who keeps insisting they didn't order anything and refuses to sign for it. But what about practical concerns? What about bills and responsibilities and the reality of your current situation? I'm not telling you to be irresponsible with money or to pretend your circumstances don't exist. I'm telling you to change the energy from which you handle those circumstances. Pay your bills from royal consciousness, not as someone who barely has enough, but as someone managing their earthly affairs while their real wealth is being prepared. Handle your current money as practice for handling your millions. When you understand that money is spiritual energy in physical form, everything changes. Every financial transaction becomes a spiritual exchange. Every dollar you spend is you directing divine energy toward what you value. Every dollar you receive is the universe saying yes to your existence, yes to your dreams, yes to your right to be here living an abundant life. Your $1,000,000 isn't coming to you because you're perfect, because you've suffered enough, or because you finally earned it through spiritual achievements. Your $1,000,000 is coming because you are a beloved child of infinite abundance, and it was never meant for you to struggle. The delay hasn't been about your worthiness. It's been about your willingness to receive without guilt, without shame, without the need to prove you deserve what love freely gives. I want you to imagine something with me. Picture yourself 1 year from now. You're sitting in your beautiful home, looking at your bank account, and you're amazed at how quickly everything changed once you started claiming instead of begging. You remember the person you were before you learned these 7 sacred words. That person who apologized for their desires, who felt guilty about wanting abundance, who believed they had to struggle to be spiritual. You feel such tenderness for who you were then, and such gratitude for who you've become. From that future self, what would you want to tell the person listening to these words right now? What would that abundant, confident, financially free version of you say to encourage you to keep going, to keep claiming, to keep remembering your royal nature? They would probably say something like this: stop making it so complicated. Stop thinking you have to be perfect before abundance can flow to you. Stop believing that your past mistakes disqualify you from future miracles. The universe isn't keeping score, it's keeping promises. And the promise is that you are loved, you are provided for, and you are meant to live abundantly. As we come to the close of our time together, I want you to feel something shifting inside you. You came here thinking you needed to learn how to convince the universe to give you money. You're leaving knowing that the universe has been waiting for you to stop apologizing for your birthright and start claiming it. The 7 words, "I claim my divine inheritance now, please," aren't magic, they're recognition. They're you finally speaking the language of someone who remembers who they really are. You are not separate from abundance. You are not outside the flow of infinite provision. You are not the exception to universal love. You are the rule. You are the point. You are the reason abundance exists at all, so that divine love can express itself through your joy, your freedom, your ability to give and receive without limitation. So let me leave you with this affirmation, and I want you to feel these words settling into your bones, into your heart, into the very foundation of who you know yourself to be. I am a beloved child of the divine, and prosperity flows to me as naturally as breath flows through me. My desires are sacred instructions, and I claim my $1,000,000 inheritance with the confidence of royalty returning home. The universe says yes because I finally remember how to say yes to myself. If these words stirred something awake in you, if you felt that recognition of your own divine inheritance, let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. Share in the comments which of the 7 words felt most powerful to you. I read every single one, and I love seeing your breakthroughs and realizations. And if you're ready to keep remembering who you really are, if you want to continue this journey of claiming your spiritual royalty, subscribe because we're just getting started on reclaiming everything that belongs to you. Remember, you are not asking for miracles. You are miracles. Your abundance is not coming, it's here. Your inheritance is not being prepared, it's waiting for you to claim it. Say those 7 sacred words like you mean them, and watch how quickly the universe responds to royalty calling their fortune home.
What Florence Scovel Shinn just shared isn't just philosophy, it's a practice. If you're ready to make this real in your life, the Hidden Laws of Wealth, 21-day activation, the Florence Scovel Shinn principles most people never learn, delivered to your inbox daily for 21 days. Linked in the description is your next step. And if this spoke to you, subscribe, we share teachings like this every day.